Hey, my name is Benjamin Owen. I'm a coach. I'm a coach for leaders who want to go a mile deep. And in this training, I'm going to share with you, how do you become that well-rounded leader? How do you become that leader who not only can lead themselves and know what they want and be decisive and create vision, but also can do that from a place of compassion and kindness, who doesn't burn people as they're on that journey ascending to wherever they want to get to? How do you become that disciplined person that once you've decided upon what you want to create, that you can operationalize that vision into really great structures that you can obey to make certain that you achieve your goals? And finally, how do you become that leader who can think continually at a higher level to replace paradigms, old thinking, maybe thinking that you've inherited from your local community, your family, it could be your old business partners? How do you ascend and change those paradigms? I'm going to talk about a mile deep leadership in this podcast, this training, this video, wherever you're watching it. And I want to share with you the components of the model that I've created after working with literally hundreds of leaders over the last 15 years. Now, I just want to introduce myself properly, because some of you may be listening to this podcast or watching this YouTube channel and you're like, who is this guy? Well, I got the fortune of being able to sit with leaders, maybe like you, from a very young age, like 21, 22. I was sat with leaders of teams, companies, organizations, whilst they were transforming their body. They would come to my gym or come to my boot camp and they wanted to replace the body fat with a lean, healthy body that was going to help them be the person that they wanted to be, whether it was leading their family or leading their team at work. And something that I learned very, very quickly were that many of the structures that help someone get a body transformation, help them get lean, help them transform their health, helped in business and helped in their lives, in their relationships. And I realized from such a young age that these same structures I had learned in my sport and exercise science degrees and my postgraduate degrees applied to business and life and mastery. And what I've been absolutely fascinated with since then is how to take those same structures and apply them to leaders to make them perform or get them to perform at the highest level. And what I wanted to create is a structure, a real clear structure. So you, if you're a leader, would know where to start when it comes to becoming a better leader, a better all-round leader. Because here's something that I've noticed, and my experience of having leaders in my life, people that have managed me, people that I've worked underneath, is that sometimes you get very, very, for example, self-led leaders. They know where they go and they know what they want, yet they're terrible about maybe communicating that vision, or they get in their own way and they self-sabotage. They procrastinate. They do all of the things that stop them from getting to where they want to be. Or they might be incredibly self-led. They know exactly what they want, but the only tool that they know to use to get there is self-criticism. Their inner critic is running the show. They come from a place of fear and anger and hatred, and they're always trying to prove people wrong in order to get to where they want to be. And these leaders, they may have short-term success, but they nearly always burn out. So what I want to share with you in this session is a way to think about your leadership. And as we go through each one, I'm going to give you some examples of how you can improve that area. And this isn't I just want to really credit this thinking. It's not my, it's based on Jungian psychology. There was a very famous psychologist, psychotherapist called Carl Jung, and he created something called Jungian therapy. And Jungian therapy has this conversation about archetypes. And archetypes are these parts of us that we inherit from our lineage, our parenting, from the culture that we're surrounded in, these natural parts of ourselves that we have. And actually the ones that he talks about, and a lot of people talk about, was the work of, I forgot that it was actually King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And it's a very masculine psychology, but it's also a very prominent psychology in self-leadership. And what I've done is I've taken that and I've transformed it into a very usable model for you to look at the way that you're enhancing your leadership with your teams, in your organizations, whether it's in your fitness or even whether it's in your family. And we're going to go through those 4 areas that you can improve on today. So if you stick around for the next, say, 25 minutes, I'm going to walk you through those. and I'm going to give you pragmatic solutions how you can go and improve them. Also, if you want to work on this at any point, if you're thinking, do you know what, Ben, I'm leading the team. I get a lot of people get in touch with me. They've just been promoted into a position of leadership. They may have gone from a team of like 2 or 3 to now they're leading 10, or they know that they want to lead their clients much better. So in order for them to 10x or transform their results, they need to go from a place of leading 10 clients to 100. And that's often the case in leadership. There's a goal that we can see, but we doubt ourselves. We doubt that we've got the capabilities to go and lead at that level. And what I do is I help leaders lead from a place of authenticity, of a way that they want to lead. They don't want to copy their boss, or they don't want to lead that they've been the way that they've perhaps been led in the past. They want to do it the way they want to. And I help them strip away the things that they don't need to do and lead in a way that they do. So let's dive in. The first part of the model, we talk about this idea of self-leadership. So self-leadership is knowing where you're going. You as a person, if you think about this, if you've got a team, if you've got an organization, you need to know where you're going. There's something about being a leader, because you essentially are going to have followers. And I think followers have been kind of bastardized with the uprise of social media, people following people. But there is a truth to this. Great leaders will have followers. And there's nothing more attractive than having a leader that knows where they're going. They're decisive, they are self-driven, they're motivated, they're inspired. There's no wavering that. They're willing to do the hard things to move forward. And sometimes it just starts with just having a really, really great vision. Actually, something springs to mind. I was coaching a client a couple of years ago, and he was struggling with staff turnover. He said, Ben, like one of the things I can't keep staff. They come into my business and they don't stick for very long. And I said, like, tell me about your vision. And he told me about his vision. His vision was so small. And the problem, if you've got a small vision, is that you won't keep great people, because they will straight away understand that there's no space for them in that vision. They'll go and either build something themselves or go and find someone with a bigger vision. So the first stop on self-leadership is having a vision that is what I call a North Star, that is so big, so far away, it's going to keep guiding you, your company, your employees, the people around you, to constantly improve and do better. And this is part of the first step in my process, is spending time creating a vivid vision of the future. Now, there's a really important word here, which is vivid. And this is something that I've really come to understand in my work over the last, say, 5 years, which is unless you create a vivid vision of the future, you'll be controlled by the narrative or the story or the vision from the past, because your brain will default to the path of least resistance. It's like, I can see the path is obvious. So the past is obvious. I can see it. I've experienced it. I'll just perpetuate that. Or if your vision for the future is so clear, so obvious, so you've revisited that vision so frequently, it makes it so much easier for you to flow in that direction. I've experienced it recently, and I getting more and more clear. I've actually realized how ambiguous, how vague, how much detail I'd left out of my future vision. So the self-leadership is all about really getting clear on the vision that you've got. And then what we want to then do, it's about building partnerships and relationships and finding the people that are going to help you get there. And that's often the role of the leader, the queen or the sovereign, the king. They're the people that go and create the allies. Like, think about back into, medieval days. One role of the monarchy was to go out and forge partnerships with the other lands, states, countries. And that's essentially what you're doing as the leader of your life, is you're going out and you're finding the who's, the people that you're going to ally with in order for you to grow your land, your territory, your wealth, your exposure, whatever that may be. So there are skills that are involved in self-leadership, like being decisive, actually making great allies with other people, like networking skills do come under self-leadership. But one of the big ones was for me was mending relationships. This is a big part of self-leadership. is that a lot of the work I've done with leaders in the past is actually learning how to have the hard conversations and actually repair relationships that have been broken, whether that's relationships with your parents, whether that's relationships with old staff members. It could be repairing relationships with people in the business right now. Your role as the leader is to be able to do that. And when we go a mile deep into your leadership, that is one of the things that we'll cover, because it's not only about having the big vision, it's about bringing the people together in order to create that vision. So that's got a huge ability of self-leadership is actually the ability to bring people together in harmony to forge a path forwards to a common goal, a shared vision. And this is something actually I experienced when I was working through this, is that sometimes as a leader, you've got to be okay about imposing your will upon other people. And that was something that I actually had a big challenge around. I was like, this is something I talked about. I worked with Phil Stutz's group from the Tools. I worked with a really great coach called Kristen Sargent, and she was very, very, very profound in the way that she coached. And she showed me, Ben, like one of the struggles that you're having is imposing your will upon others, and great leaders are okay about doing that. This is where we're going. Trust me, push the big old trust button. I want you to do this. I know it's going to be good for you. And sometimes we've got to be okay about doing that. And part of self-leadership and being a great leader is doing that. So the way this is actually going to look, it's like creating a 10x goal. So really, really clear. It's the first thing you do when you want to become more self-led. Really getting clear what a 10x goal is for you. The second thing is knowing which battles to fight. Like, what are you going to put your attention on? What problem are you actually going to solve? What project are you going to create? One project at a time. This is known as the crux. And what we want to do is we want to get clear on what is the issue that you want to put your attention on in that quarter. Now, for different people at different parts of their development, it's going to be different. Like, it could be self-care. It could be something like hard conversations. It could be mending relationships. It could be even like financial literacy. It could be, what battle are you going to solve in the next 12 weeks that if you solve that, you're guaranteed to go towards the goal that you want. The next one is being the lead character in your life, like main character energy, as Poppy likes to call it, main character energy. And what that means is that sitting on your own internal throne. And what I mean by this is that I realized that for a big portion of my life, I had put other people on my internal throne. I was always asking, like, well, which direction should I go? How should I do this? Tell me which way to go. I had put mentors, coaches, parents, even friends on my internal throne, and I wasn't going after what I wanted. I was going after a mismatch of all what people told me I should want. And it was probably mid-20s when I realized I was doing that. And it was a huge, huge shift when I decided, actually, do you know what? I'm going to live life and lead on my own terms. So that's the next one. And the final one is building allies and partnerships, as I mentioned before. It's the finding of the who's. And I when I was like looking into self-leadership, it was about that, because there's looking at the model and looking at actually what is the role of the king or the queen or the person who's leading in their life. It's to go out and find those people that are going to help them move forwards. It's forging great partnerships. So that's self-leadership. The next one's self-discipline. And this is the quintessential, the warrior, the doer. And this is what so many people come to me struggling with, is self-sabotage. They get in their own way when they know what to do, but they don't do it. They don't do it for numerous reasons, because internally they self-sabotage, they stop themselves, or externally their plan is terrible. For example, I want to lose 10 pounds, but I'm going to train my way there using fitness. It's not effective. So what self-discipline is about is putting the structure, the reactive discipline, and the expansive discipline in place. It's working on three key areas of discipline. And this is something that really revolutionized the way I saw discipline when I broke it into three parts. Because structural discipline is about having the structures in place to achieve your goals. If you look back through some of my YouTube videos, I do talk about, have you got the structures in place to achieve your goals? It's about having structures in your day, your week, your month, your year, your quarter, whichever you need. It's a drumbeat in place to make achieving your goals an almost certain endeavor. The second thing is reactive discipline. It's the ability to manage your emotions in your mind and not react to stimuli as you're doing something. For example, I spent this morning making trainings. I mean, in front of the camera for probably about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours this morning. It's having that discipline not to want to check my phone, not wanting to go and dive into emails, not reacting to an emotional thought that comes up. It's about a mind management. And what I want to teach you is higher level mind management skills. And this is so important, is that if you think about this, as you transcend levels of responsibility and leadership, you absolutely need better structures for dealing with stress. Because if you think about someone like Jeff Bezos or even like Jay-Z or some of the film stars that have so much stress and pressure and exposure, they have to have better ways of dealing with that exposure, and better ways of dealing with that stress. And so that's why I loved Phil Stutz's work, because Phil Stutz teaches film stars, billionaires, high performing business people how to manage their mind effectively. And my work with him and the tools group, and especially with Kristen, was like so transformative for me, because I started looking at my emotions differently and managing them differently. And the final one is expansive discipline. It's the ability to choose that hard decision in any given moment. It's that hard decision that you're avoiding making, that sweaty conversation that you're avoiding having. It's about choosing that uncomfortable growth-based decision moment to moment to moment. And when you've got those three types of discipline, what you notice is you have better structure, you have much clearer boundaries. So you have really clear boundaries, so you're more effective, your energy's way, way better, and you start showing up as a powerful person, like a powerful leader, because you can use things like anger in a productive way. And this is not me saying that you're going to come in and start looking at this model, using this model, and say you start being an angry, aggressive person. But there is a very, very powerful emotion inside so many of you, which is anger, and you are afraid of it. It's not something that you use as a tool. You use it as a weapon, and it's often against yourself. And so what a big part of discipline is about is learning to change your relationship with anger. It's really powerful for me. I've seen when men, like so many men that I've worked with, have changed their relationship with anger. It's dramatically shifted how they lead their life. And the final one is implementation. You're just going to get more things done when you have higher levels of self-discipline. You're going to get more stuff done. You're going to have more downtime, because when you are effective and you have deep time for connection, you become more effective, and it kind of spirals up. Whereas the opposite is that when you're not self-disciplined, you have less time, you connect less, so you're less effective, and it kind of spirals down. So we want to make sure that you're on this upward spiral of self-discipline. So there's two. Number three is self-development. Now, even when I was making the model, I was like, is that just a bit too ambiguous, too vague, like self-development? But the development of the self is the development of you, the real authentic you, the way that you think. Now, in King Warrior Magician Lover, it's the magician, it's the part of you that alchemizes the way that you think. A lot of magicians would use potions and powders, and that's I'm a very, very big fan of hacking your way to better levels of thinking. But a lot of this can be done just with the way that you interact with your thoughts. And it's actually challenging your thoughts. And a lot of leaders don't have their thoughts challenged. They are in an echo chamber. Maybe they haven't got a coach or a mentor. And what I think is so important is to have someone challenge the way that you think. And then what that helps us do is that we improve the frame at which we see our problems, our life, our work. We want to keep elevating the frame. We use better frames. I was on a call the other day with my mentor, and he said, if you were thinking of earning 10 million, how would you go about it? And I never sat down and done that thinking. That was a frame that I'd never taken off the shelf. employed in my thinking. I was like, hang on a second, I could just put that in my calendar. I can spend some time. Like, if I was to go out and make 10 million from this company, how would I go and do it? And just give myself even the opportunity to think with that frame. And this is what I fear that I don't fear that. I do fear. Maybe I fear it for you. That we don't do. We don't use the frames that are available to us, because sometimes we just use the ones that we use, and we're all constantly solving the same problems. And then the next one is having the hard conversations, and this is actually the same as the self leadership one. Is like having hard conversations is actually developing the way or the mechanics as to which we use our language. And I think this is a self-development process, because one of the things that I noticed in my 20s was that I would do anything to avoid a hard conversation. I really didn't like having hard conversations, but I didn't have the language patterns. I didn't understand the mechanics of how to string together a hard conversation. I was so worried that I would just avoid the conversation entirely. Yeah, doing crucial conversations, reading Radical Candor, having hard conversations myself, leading my team way better, I noticed that they were often the most pivotal points of my personal leadership. So that's why I think it's so important to do that work. And then the final part of self-development is not becoming know thyself. It's not knowing yourself, it's testing yourself. There's a saying, it shouldn't be know yourself, it should be test thyself. It's actually going out and experimenting with new ways of thinking. And this is something I don't think a lot of leaders get the opportunity to do. It's like, if you just suspend that judgment or that belief that you're X, and just went out into your world this week and behaved like that, like Y, what would happen? And I think that helping people do more of this is very, very powerful, because when we start testing ways of being and showing up, we start to see massive shifts in our leadership. And this can be, for example, you've always led in a certain way. You've always been a micromanager. And one of the people in one of my groups, I said to her, I'll tell you what, why don't you just test this week where you're not going to micromanage. You're going to come from a position of pure coaching and leadership. How would you go and do it? And she said, I'll do this and do that. I was like, well, go and test it. Anyway, she came back the following week. She's like, oh my God, she's done this and more. I've just actually found out she's got all these talents that I didn't know about, but because I was micromanager, she wasn't showing them. And that is where real leadership takes care. Is you start finding you have 10 times more time because you're 10 times more effective with your staff and the people around you. So it's testing those things out. The final part of the model, and this is, I'm most excited about teaching this and sharing this, because this is the part of me which I think that over the last 15 years I had probably pushed into shadow a little bit. I'd probably pushed this down. I wanted to talk about this because it's really me, and it's the way that I lead, and it's the way that I'm passionate about helping other people lead, is from a place of love. And this fundamentally was the thing that I think that really resonated with me when I've transformed over the last 5 years. I was like, I really do think love is the best place to come from when you're a leader. And this is the insight, is that love is a force that does not burn out. It doesn't run out. When you love more, you get more love. And when you lead from a place of love and connection and challenge and support, you get the best from the people around you. But this is the difference. Most people lead from a place of fear. They're worried about the business. They're worried about their staff not doing enough. They're worried. They fear. They've actually done a podcast on this, which is like 6 fears of leaders. They're worried about being themselves. They come from a place of just being so critical of themselves. And because a lot of I'd also almost like the garden by which they grow their leadership from is fear, it strangles their ultimate level of performance. And this is what I think real, like, mile deep is, like going into the love part, because I think this is what I'm experiencing at the moment personally as well. The more capacity I give myself to love and receive love, the more I have it in my life. The more I lead from this place, the more my clients, my customers, my teammates, Poppy, my kids feel loved and connected. And I'm achieving better results than ever in my life. And this is where I'm coming from. And the great thing about love is it doesn't burn you out. And I think that fear, short term, it can be a great motivator for change. It can help you do things. It can help get things done, but it burns you out if it's a long term fuel. It's not. It's like the kindling on a fire. It can get the fire started, but it won't keep the fire going. And so this is what I think is where we absolutely, like, say you're in, especially in your 30s and beyond, is that I can place a gamble, or what's it called, I can place a belief here that if you are burnt out, you're frazzled, you're fried, you're unhappy, you feel disconnected, you feel inauthentic with your leadership, you've been leading from a place of fear. There's some level of fear which is driving your leadership, and what it's about is removing that and replacing it with love. And what that does, it starts to help you lead from a place of compassion and kindness and creativity. And this isn't softness. This is by this, and I think this is something that I think that a lot of people worry about. Is like, if I become kind and loving and compassionate, do I become soft and a walkover? And no, it's not. It's having a soft front and a strong spine. Soft front means that I'm not reactive to the struggles and challenges that you bring to me, but I've got a strong, rigid spine that I can hold you and defend my position and help me move forwards. And I think that's the difference. So I think self-love is about developing a really soft front, that I'm not rigid, that if something hurts me, I can say, oh, that hurt, but I'm also not easily knocked over by it. I'm really powerful. It looks like creating a team which feels supported and is effective, because I don't think that when people are in fear of their roles, their jobs, their money, your wrath, I don't think that it's a great way to be. I think there is a place for it. I think there's areas where, like, if you look in the military, there's so much discipline and so much there's so much consequence around doing things wrong or badly, or breaking the rules. I think there's places for that, but on the whole, in a lot of the businesses that you and I lead, is that you can have a very effective team that are compassionate, creative, and kind. But kind is also, it's not nice. It's saying the things that need to be said. It's being very loving, being like, listen, this is how you're showing up. This is how I think that you can show up. Let's help you get there. Leading from a place of radical candor. So Radical Candor was actually written by Kim Scott. If you haven't read that book, it's a transformational read. If you're a leader, I think going a mile deep into that stuff will help you understand how to care personally and challenge directly. When you can be a leader that is very loving and very straight, direct, it makes you way more powerful, because not only do you get people changing their behavior, they change their behavior and they stick with you, versus being that obnoxious, insincere boss who makes flip comments, trying to get people to change, and it pisses them off and they leave. And ultimately, what you want to build is a team around you that sticks with you and grows with you. And I think Radical Candor is a very good vehicle for that. And the final part of self-love is having self-preservation and energy preservation, like self-care. If you're a leader, it is absolutely essential that you maintain a good level of energy, good level of bandwidth, presence, and all those will come from self-care and self-preservation. And not enough leaders tend to these things. They're so busy putting out fires, their lack of structure, maybe they don't know where they're going because all the other arenas aren't in the right order, that's the thing that suffers. And I went through this phase of my life where, like, every couple of months I'd burn myself out. I'd be absolutely frazzled and I'd get ill. And it wasn't helpful. I'd come home and lie on the couch every single night, burnt out after giving everything in the day, but having nothing left for the people I actually really loved the deepest, which was Poppy at the time. And now I've got Poppy and the kids. So if you're a leader who is burning themselves out, giving everything to your work, and you're bringing the scraps home to your wife, your kids, your husband, and that needs to change, this is going to be the most transformational part of the model for you. It's like really looking at how do you look after yourself so that you can be the most effective leader. And like boundaries and communication and self-preservation and like even losing fat is a really, really great way to improve self-love. So that's the model. Like I wanted to talk about it in depth because I really am excited about it, because I've been in transformation and personal transformation for such a long time. I was always looking for a way to disseminate and share and help people with these 4 areas, but I'd never seen such a clear vision of this before. And so what I did around about 2 months ago, I launched the 10X Tribe, which is running. It's a phenomenal tribe program for people who want to go 10X in their life. And there was a real calling I had to deliver this thing, this mastermind, but I didn't want to just do any old mastermind where people got together and talked about just their business. I wanted to go a mile deep. I wanted to really help people go into these 4 areas so that they could create so much transformation, so they could be an effective leader, so they could end self-sabotage, so they could get rid of the things that weren't helpful in their leadership, and they could become a world-class leader. One of those people that's like in the 1% of the 1%. And if you've been listening to this and you felt a real calling to lead at a higher level, at a level that you know that you're capable of deep down, but there's a couple of things that I've maybe talked about over those last 4 pieces that you'd like to go and really work on over the next 6 months, honestly, just reach out to me. I'm going to put a call to action like link in the description on this video, and I'd love for you to just like click on it and apply if this is something that you think would help you. Like say you've started a company in the last couple of years, or you've been promoted, or that you're in your own way and you know that you need to work on these 4 things. Let's have a conversation about where those 4 areas could be helpful in your life. You know, the conversation will be free. That's the best thing. It's like a free conversation. I'm going to talk to you. We're going to explore your life and your work and see if one of those 4 things is going to really help. It could be all 4. It could literally be all 4. I think it was for me over different frames of my life, but how it could actually help you. And let's see if something like that could actually help you achieve this impossible goal that you may have in, well, we're doing this in 2024 and beyond. So it's a 6-month program, which is going to help you implement what we've talked about over the last, say, 35 minutes. So thank you so much for watching the video. If it's something that's helpful for you and you've found it helpful, feel free to like or subscribe to the channel. And if it's something you want to have a conversation about, feel free to go over to that link and just drop in your details. See you on the next video, team.